Oh, how did this get here? Hello everyone, this is Jimmy Coldest, and today we're going to be talking about projectiles. Specifically, someone requested to know how to make, an effect spawn from a projectile, such as a pillar of fire from a fireball. So we're going to be doing that as an example. This fireball may not be the most, photogenic fireball to ever be created, but, this is mainly about teaching the people what we know. I'm using draw flex, square fleck, in case you're interested. This will make some kind of a decent fireball, probably. And with every projectile, I would say it's necessary to create a group. So, whether you use a piece of physical material or another paint fleck, in this case I'm using physical material because it will also make a nice mount for our logic, but basically you always want to create a group when making a projectile, and you may be wondering, why? Well, if you want to add any visuals to something, having it in a group is really easy, because once it's emitted, you can just put things in that group and it'll automatically be added, whereas you'll have to do the whole process over again if you create a new group after the thing has been emitted. This should make a nice fireball. A little impasto definitely doesn't hurt. I also like to create a, all directions, since paint flecks are technically flat. And a little bit of reddening helps. But that's our fireball. Now let's add a little chip to our logic, make sure it's on there nice and tight. Gonna call it fireball. And the main thing you're looking for when creating a projectile of any kind is some sort of collision method. Now there is an impact sensor, but I really don't advise it because it means the projectile has to be collidable. And that comes with a few disadvantages. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and make it uncollidable and invisible, since it's not really going to be seen. And make sure the detail, we're going to preview invisibility and turn down the detail a lot, because it's not really going to be seen, so it could be as low detail as possible. I would also advise duping this out whenever you want to make a projectile within this scene, because it will save on thermo. But if you make a new one, it won't take too much, because you're reducing it down to nothing. It's just overall more, better that way. Alright, so collidability is best served by a trigger zone, in my opinion. One set to label. And I generally think that square is the best shape. There are some reasons for this. It has to do with high velocity projectiles, although this one probably won't be particularly high velocity. And you can collide with non-collidable and invisible things. Probably not advisable. If you have an invisible wall, you might want it only colliding with things that are visible. Things non-collidable would be okay, because some enemies technically aren't collidable. And we'll have it so it collides with everything but friend and unlabeled. Because usually your invisible walls will be unlabeled. That's what I tend to do. Unlabeled technically is a label, even though it's not listed on the scenery. Like, there's no unlabeled thing on here, but if you click this off, it is unlabeled. So you technically have like more labels than you know of. At least one extra one. That being the lack of a label is a label in and of itself. But anyway. And the most basic thing you're going to want is some kind of effect, which will emit. We're going to go for a pillar of fire. Wish me luck on this one. Making spiral-shaped things can sometimes be an issue. But now that we've stamped out our fleck and we have it on kaleidoscope, let's just go ahead and go to Draw Flecks. It's terrible. Let's create a sculpt, how about? That might help just a little bit. Get it as dead center as possible. I'm not sure if it entirely will matter. All I want is a pillar of fire. Oh, and turn off mirror, we won't want that. Again, this is not the most photogenic of things. I could probably do a lot better on these effects, but, you know, we're just going for the basics. I'm going to dupe it out and make a slightly lighter one in the center. Probably a bit too much glow for the subject. Let's turn this down a bit. And, yeah, we'll just go ahead and... I think that's about right. Group. Set it to 500, I think. That should do nicely. Gonna do fade in and fade out on fleck properties. We'll have boil on and evaporate. Bit of throb. Maybe turn some of these down just a little bit. Turn impasto on, I think that will help. I also think stretching the flecks will look better. I also think it's going too slow. It needs to go faster. Maybe not that fast. Let's go for 2,500. Alright, let's go for 1,000. That's better, I think. Anyway, we're not entirely too interested in the visuals, but let's copy out this projectile and delete this stuff, because I'm mainly interested in creating a new group. Fire pillar. What should do? Now we're going to scope into it. And we are going to go to here, select properties, and turn endpoint down to 0. That's basically going to take this all the way down to its basic, you know, if a fleck is drawn, it's going to take the end of the fleck and reduce it to the beginning, which in this case is nothing because we reduced it all the way to 0. I'll explain with visuals. Here's what it would look like if it was halfway. Here's what it looks like at 9%. Then we're going to stamp out a keyframe, a simple keyframe. Set it to linear blend. You could technically do this with an action recorder, but I'm in a hurry, so... we just turn up the endpoint all the way to 100%. I also think I might make it grow a little bit, because that would give it just a tad of personality. Then we're going to copy this keyframe out, scope in, and turn down the start point, or turn it up, I should say, to 100%, which will make the bottom go all the way to the top, canceling it out in a sense. I guess we could show that visually so that you know what I'm talking about. Basically, it's just going to be reversing the process that we did earlier so that the fire seems to vanish into thin air. And that's what it'll look like. And the duration of how long the fireball remains out there is up to you. It all depends on lengthening the keyframes and the effect. And if you want to damage something, you know, the best way is just to stick out this, one of these things. Health modifier set to zone. If you wanted to continuously damage things, you could maybe set it to continuous. And then just choose a shape for your damage zone. One thing I should mention, though, is if you set it to continuous, be sure that whatever health manager you have has the cooldown time set to 0, otherwise it'll basically just start, and it won't do actual continuous damage burn, so yeah, just keep that in mind. Turn cooldown time to 0 on all your enemy health managers. Alright, I think that's good. That's our fireball in a nutshell. We'll also put a destroyer on it just to make sure it dies at the right time. And now we've taken the emitter, object to emit, and we're going to grab this little thing here. Turn down the emission speed because we won't want that. Also put it to once. You could technically have the lifetime be never-ending because we put a destroyer on that thing and it really will just destroy the entire thing. So long as the microchip is outside the group, just make sure you do that outside the group. But we're going to give it a lifetime of 5 just in case. That way it will destroy even if we did something improperly, you know. And just stick the trigger zone right into this emitter. And then go to the emitter. Go to this option called Object Just Emitted. Stick it inside a destroyer and it will just destroy the entire piece. We're going to put a mover on here. Set to local space. It's facing the right direction. That's good. And you can input the speed here. I think that's a decent speed for what we're doing. I'm going to put a rudimentary lock on just because it's easier when you're... Well, I guess we don't need one, actually. I am just going to put an attack real quick. I'm going to use keyframes because it's very handy to use keyframes. Set to linear blend. Put these really close together because we want them to be doing this motion pretty fast. Let's see how it looks in action. We also want an action recorder to shut off his, oops. Put the action recorder on here. Make sure to set it to keyframe mode. We're going to shut off his procedurals. Also his movement, because you don't really want him moving around when he's shooting a fireball. And of course, we only want this to play once uninterrupted, so I'm going to take out a node. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you're very familiar with this song and dance. This'll, you know, create the delay before you can press the button again. In this case, we're going to use square as a fireball button. And we're going to put down a little emitter, which is going to emit our fireball. Speaking of our fireball, where is it? Oh, it must be because we pressed play. Once. Oh, and I would advise moving the real, the original thing that you're using as a template for a mission. Move it over there so that it won't get confused as to which one you're moving. Lifetime 5. 5 is pretty good for average projectile. Decent speed, such as the one we created. Alright, let's take a look at this. And there you go, that's how you create a lovely little projectile with a splash effect. It could be anything, though. It could be an explosion. It doesn't necessarily have to just be a pillar of fire. The duration is all up to you, whatever you want to emit. If you want to emit emit, the entire state of Gloucestershire, that could happen, upon impact. Anything works. Anyway, I think that's all for now on this subject. Here are the names of all of our lovely cult supporters. Many thanks to all of you. If you'd like to get your name in those credits, check the link in the description and head over to our Ko-fi. You can become a cultist neophyte to become credited at the end of our videos, or you can become an acolyte to gain early access to videos in addition to credit. Now, if you aren't in the mood for membership, you can always leave a one-time tip. If you enjoyed this video and are not already subscribed, consider hitting the subscribe button down below. And maybe give us a quick like, both options are free. Also, don't forget to ring the notification bell so you will always be notified when new videos come out. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, leave them in the comments section. Or if you just want to let out your pent-up rage, give us some smack talk. Until next time, goodbye.